You are listening to the Alouettes Flightdeck, a proud member of the Canadian Football Podcast Network.
All right, folks, we've been cleared for takeoff.
Welcome to the Alouettes Flightdeck, the podcast dedicated to Montreal Alouettes football. I'm Cliffy D. You can find me over at Twitter at Cliffy D.
And I'm Tim Capper. You can also find me on Twitter, but at Repact. That's REPPACT. And this episode of the podcast is presented by our good friends over at SportBuff, where if you use the promo code ALSFlightDeck10 at checkout, you will save 10% on your entire order. So if you head over to www.sportbuffshop.com, use the promo code, save 10%, and get a hold of the brand new 2023 CFL merch that they now have available.
And the Alouettes Flightdeck is all over the internet. Make sure you head over to www.alouettesflightdeck.ca to check out our entire 8-year archive of the show. Make sure you give us a follow on Twitter at AlouettesFLDeck. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/AlouettesFlightDeckPod. Make sure you check out our Instagram page at Alouettes Flightdeck. And also head over to our merchandise store over at teespring.com/stores/AlsFlightDeck. And don't forget, you can also check out please subscribe to our YouTube page over at youtube.com/Alouettes Flightdeck.
Camp! It's finally here, baby.
Finally.
And so there was this one time in band camp. It's finally here, dude. It's a little bit different from normal, at least from last year with the whole strike thing and whatnot. But it was nice being at camp. But day one, it's been a very long time since I've been at day one. Quite a while that I've been since, and couldn't last year because it happened during the week. It just happened that the CFL had scheduled it because everything seemed to fit into the schedule properly, where everything was on a Sunday. But we made it, dude. We made it. It's funny. We got almost the same welcome that we did last year from the exact same person this year, which was amazing.
Oh, absolutely. It was almost like, good. Now that you guys are here, camp can get underway. Yeah. And that's a good feeling. It's like I'm not really one to toot our own horns, but I mean, it's really cool that we get the recognition and the love from various members of the organization. Mm-hmm. And we appreciate it, folks. We really do. It's really awesome that we get recognized, and it's just great. I mean, it just shows that, hey, there's a lot of people that listen to this podcast, and we are truly, truly thankful. And as you said, yeah, camp is underway, and it just feels like all is right with the world again, because now we're back into it after months and months of off season and all the craziness that went about with it. All we really wanted was just to see some damn football action. And sure enough, this past Sunday, we finally got to see some honest to goodness football. Mm-hmm. Not a full game, mind you. There was a lot of drills. There was a lot of practice things. It was,
but that's what it is. That's what camp is to start off. I mean, we're gonna talk about it more. We're gonna hype up the scrimmage that's coming up this next week. But as I said on social media, good thing for those cheat sheets and those programs, the sheets with the numbers and the names of all the players, because it really was needed. Because you really did need that to tell the numbers and the players and who the hell we had this year. Because it basically is I think I said this last week. It's basically a brand new team.
In a lot of ways, it really is. And even though we did see some familiar faces, and we were so happy to see those familiar faces as well, it was kind of weird because there's a few guys that we knew that ended up changing their number. So after getting used to, for example, I mean, we went with, for example, quarterback Davis Alexander. When he was in camp last year, he was wearing number 6. And then when he finally made the roster, they switched him to number 17. Now this year, he's rocking the number 3. And for a very good reason, too, Tim. Mm-hmm. Because we asked him about it. Because I remember he had told us, because once we found out that Darius Pickett was going to be signing with the Toronto Argonauts, suddenly the number 6 became available.
Right.
And I thought, okay, well, shoot, Davis will probably take that because he wore that number in college. He wore it during the preseason. It seemed to be a number of his significance to him, so he'll probably jump all over that if he gets a chance. And then he had told us during the offseason that, nope, there's another number coming, and just wait for it. I'm like, okay, so you got my attention now. And sure enough, wearing the number 3, I'm like, dude, okay, you want to tell us what number 3 is all about? And sure enough, he had mentioned that last year, after working with Vernon Adams in camp, and the two of them had become extremely close, this was his way of paying homage to Vernon and everything that he's all the wisdom that he was able to impart on young Davis. And now it's going to be weird because, again, I see number 3 for the Alouettes, and I want to say it's Vernon, but it's not. Unfortunately, he's still wearing number 3, but now for the BC Lions.
Does that mean the team's going to be having a change the nameplate day?
They kind of have to, don't they? Like, at this point, no wonder people have trust issues when it comes to, like, you go and you buy a jersey. Like Tyson Philpott, for example, as we discussed last episode, switched to number 6. So obviously Davis was going to take that. So that's part of the intrigue of the new number. But then sure enough, number 3. And then we find out other people are switching numbers left, right, and center. I'm like, what the heck? So
Cole Speaker switched to Davis's old number.
Yeah, it's like musical chairs, like musical numerical chairs. It's
crazy. A good thing to see that my number 31 William Stanback jersey is still the number 1 William Stanback jersey
for now. But you know what? Like, seriously, like, I know it's, the team wants to sell jerseys. You want to get attached to a player. You want to get behind them. And what better way to show your support for them is buying the jersey with their name and number on it. But when they change their numbers like that, it's like, damn. Like for example, I know quite a few people bought Tyson Philpott's number 81 jersey last year, and now they're obsolete, and like that sucks because jerseys aren't cheap. They're not super expensive, but at the same time, they're still not cheap, especially when you're getting one like a custom one made, which And I'm pretty sure Tyson's not. He's got a good heart, but I don't think he's going to pay for everybody who bought his jersey to get it switched over to the number 6. I mean, it's just, it's one of those things. Like, let the buyer beware. But damn, like, no wonder like people get worried about buying a jersey, or why you still see people wearing jerseys of 20, 25 years ago. Like they're raggedy as hell. But I mean, like, okay, like they bought the jersey.
Yeah, which I get to, but and as I mentioned to you, and I'm going to mention just in case people don't know this, is that while I understand, your reasoning, it's sound reasoning, Cliff. But for those who don't know, if the team is going to be selling a jersey on their website, specifically with their name and number, not one that that is currently listed on the website as player X, this is their number, right? Not one that you do that you can get made
custom.
Mm-hmm. But if it's there, they get a percentage of that sale, which I think is built into the CBA, if I'm not mistaken. So I get your point, but this point, this thing too, I'm all for giving these guys a percentage if I buy the jersey.
Oh, 1,000%. I will never, discredit anyone or suggest otherwise, that they don't deserve even just a small portion of jersey sales, but. At the same time, though, it just sucks. So, like, you go out and you buy so-and-so's jersey, and then next year he changes his number, and you're like, hello?
Yeah.
I just shelled out like $160 for your jersey, bud, and you go and do this to me. Like, what the hell?
Oh, it's funny. You know what? If they're going to do a nameplate change day, they need to do it for Cody's jersey. Because,
and I don't know, a few people bought Harris 7 jerseys for last year.
Mm-hmm.
If the team can find a way to get Fajardo kind of sublimated over them, that would be ideal. I mean, at least that way it doesn't feel like a total loss.
No, it's not.
But I digress.
But I still want to tell this one story, and then because it is still camp related. Because obviously after camp we were able to speak with a ton of people. For me, it's getting used to new numbers and still getting used to these new faces. Mm-hmm. Because there are a lot of guys that we are just meeting for the very first time. Mm-hmm. The story, you have to tell this story and how it came about and how we ended, what I ended up saying. But tell everybody the story that when you were talking to the current draft pick, Shedler Furvis.
Oh, just I had happened to mention they gave him number 70 to wear, and ask any football person, any player who's played in any league. It seems like the number 70 is the kiss of death. It's like if you're wearing this number, you better ball out big time. You got to prove that you belong on the team, because automatically that's like the misbegotten number. Like you do not want to be wearing number 70. And he laughed like, well, hopefully, I'll do what I can to make the team. And he had that excitement in his voice, and such a fine young man, I must say.
Yeah, we'll have to get him on. But also because my comment to you, because we were talking about number changes, I said to him, I said, hey, make the team. At first, I said to you, do you really want to be telling him this? But then it was make the team, change the number, because there will be numbers available as of today, as an example, because of all the cuts. There are now other numbers available.
Yeah, like I'm pretty sure Shedler stuck with 70 until the final cut down day. Should he make the roster? Then yes, I'm pretty sure they'll say, okay, we got some more numbers available now. What do you want? What works for you? Kind of deal. Yep. I think he wore number 3 when he was in college, so that's obviously not going to be available to him. But they'll figure something out, right?
Exactly. Day one of camp, I think we went into it knowing what we were going to see. Guys a little bit tentative, guys a little bit sloppy, quarterback's not really on. I think that was basically the story from the get-go for everybody. Not singling any particular person out, because again, it was day one. The quarterbacks had been there during rookie camp and stuff like that, so that obviously some of the rookie wide receivers needed somebody to throw to them. But from your perspective, did anything stand out? I mean, I noticed, again, I was watching quarterbacks and wide receivers as much as possible. Where were you looking at initially when practice started up?
Well, it was interesting because we kind of got to see a little bit of everything all at once. I know they started off with special teams like field goal kicking and all that, which was different. I mean, there are extra kickers in camp, so yeah, I guess make sure that they get a little bit of attention. I mean, kind of like you, I was kind of focusing a little bit more on the offense, because it seemed to be where we were sitting. It was that's where the offensive players were lined up, and we seemed to get a little bit more of that attention. We didn't really see a whole lot of everything until they started doing the one-on-ones and the scrimmages, if you will, like as far as trying out new plays and trying out different players at different positions and such. To me, like I looked at the quarterback competition. I mean, you see what what Cody Fajardo can do. Caleb Evans, I was really curious to see what he could do. I mean, we know him primarily as a short yardage specialist, but I mean, he was able to throw the rock pretty well, and he made a couple of interesting plays, got a couple of nice throws in. Davis Alexander, though, holy jeez, this guy's got a rocket. I know. For an arm.
And by the way, you mentioned this. You weren't the only one who mentioned this. The dude looks svelte. I know you talked to him about this. Did he actually lose some poundage during the year, during the offseason?
Incredibly enough, he gained some poundage.
Seriously?
But muscle. Let's not forget, muscle weighs more than fat people. So, yeah, he actually bulked up, but in a good way. Because I remember last year, yeah, he, I'll say it, he looked a little puffy. Like, not in a bad way, but like, okay, he, it's like that freshman 15 that you put on. Like, he looked, like...
Or the COVID-20.
for example. And listen, I'm guilty of that as well. Believe me, I'm not about to start fat shaming anybody here. Like, rocks, was it people live in glass houses, don't throw stones kind of deal. But we looked and he's like, you're looking yoked, dude. Like, I mean, you're looking like, looking strong, looking swole practically. But yeah, and he had mentioned because we looked at, he was listed at 195 on the sheet, and we thought that was generous, but no, I mean, like, he's actually in like the what do you say? I think he said 205, 206 range.
Yeah.
But again, muscle. I mean, like, he looks, again, it's kind of hard to tell when you're wearing your football uniform, but I'd say he probably was looking a little more jacked than he was, I'd say, this time last year, which credit to him, because that clearly means he's taking this seriously. Like, I think he realizes that there's a golden opportunity for him to really make a name for himself. I mean, he was like the training camp darling last year, had an outstanding preseason, and then was able to make the roster, like make the practice roster, and finally got some playing time towards the very end of the season last year. But I think he's come into camp like almost like, I could be QB1 if you let me. If I get the opportunity, I'm going to take it. So I love that. If that's his mindset, then I'm all for it. I definitely think he's got the talent. I've said it numerous times. I think he's extremely talented. He's still raw in a lot of ways. And I think if this team really wants to get behind him and really give him the opportunity to become a superstar, I think for him, it's there for the taking. He just has to realize it, believe in himself, and just go ahead and whatever opportunities come your way, whether it's in training camp sessions or during the preseason games that the Alouettes are going to be playing, this is his time. And he's got to show that he's not just some flash in the pan. Like he is what we think he's going to be. And I truly do think in the right environment, and I think Montreal could very well be the right environment for him to become a bona fide superstar in this league.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of some other things too. I mean, day one, you really can't take much stock. And I mean, one thing we can say is we did notice that, and this is not something that nobody knows about, but I mean, Chandler Worthy wasn't playing the day one, but we found out why, because of passport issues, and he literally just gotten into camp. So he was sitting out day one. The Alouettes did put Sean Jameson, Reggie White Jr., and Raheem Wilson on the 6-game injured list. We figured as such for Reggie. We found out how much longer, and it sucks. It looks like Reggie will be able to rejoin the team for the September-October run, from what he mentioned to us.
Yeah, he said knee's feeling good, but I mean, he did tear 3 of those ligaments, like the ACL, PCL, and LCL, I think it was.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I mean, that's no joke, folks.
Because I remember us talking to him right the day he did it, after post game after he did it.
Yep.
So, and then Sean Jameson, I'm not surprised. But then again, who's going to be the backup center now? Because Sean was a backup center for a little bit last year, wasn't he?
Well, he was actually he was starting center until he got hurt, and now with the team signing Justin Lawrence in free agency,
that's it. Yes.
I mean, that's going to be your starter right there, and then Raheem Brown, who was the draft pick last year, I definitely see him as somebody who's ready to take that next step. Like he was on the suspended list last year, and I believe he went back to school even in order to make sure that the Alouettes could retain him, so that come 2023, he'd be back in camp and back ready to compete. And that's a guy that I think truly has the potential to be a major star on this offensive line. Yeah. And if Sean Jameson can't go for whatever reason, I think honestly the center position is more than fine, because don't forget you also have David Brown, who took a few snaps at center last year as well and did not look out of place whatsoever. In fact, I think the only reason he got out of the lineup was because he too unfortunately suffered the injury bug. But this O-line has incredible depth this year.
Oh, and I think it's funny too that we're actually putting Christian Matt as a 4th option for center, which is crazy. Is it not?
Well, I mean,
but still, it just shows. But you're saying it just shows depth. That's all I'm saying.
And I don't think it's a knock necessarily towards Christian. I think it's more of a matter of we know what Christian Matt can do. And I hate to say it, but he's not a young man anymore. I mean, he was drafted in 2011. So, I mean, you talk about... I
have his rookie community card at work.
So, I mean, you talk about one of the elder statesmen, if you will, on this team, and that's Christian Matt. Like someone who has been there, done that, and gotten the T-shirt. I mean, and he can still go. You can tell the fire is still burning in him, because he still wants to be very much a part of this. I mean, to have someone like that to be able to impart that kind of wisdom on the youngsters, like a Raheem Brown or even a Patrick Davis, like these are young men that, given the right opportunity, will be ready to go. I no doubt we'll be seeing a lot of time in the preseason game against Ottawa next week. Holy cow, it's coming up fast, the preseason.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, but it's, I mean, so there weren't really any surprises as far as who wasn't going to be practicing or who wasn't going to be starting right away with camp. And did anybody really stand out to you? I mean, again, we were there day one. I'm sure we will see a hell of a lot more at the scrimmage this coming week. There have been some unique stuff that has been reported, so it's not like it's anything secretive or what we did last year, and not mentioning who was sitting out and whatnot, about certain players who seem to be a little dinged up, because that has been reported. But did anything else really surprise you from people that you saw? I mean, obviously it was great seeing Hergy back, obviously, and is where he belongs, and getting him back into it. And anybody else really?
Well, I think you got the usual suspects. I mean, like Tyson Philpott was looking outstanding, as we have come to expect from him. KGG, as you said, still got the speed, still Nitro, as we have nicknamed him earlier this year. I mean,
well, since you made it, I'm going to say it right now. If people didn't know, Philpott hasn't practiced for the past 2 days because of a potential hammy, which was the issue that occurred for him last year at the beginning of training camp. But we'll update you as information becomes available.
I know that one player that's getting a lot of attention right now, and even so much as lining up with the ones over the past couple of days, is Keyshawn Abram. again, we were asking like who's going to replace Geno Lewis as far as that out of nowhere receiver that like he was back in the day. And so far, I know it's still early, and we still haven't seen him in the scrimmage game or in actual preseason action. But so far, over the past couple of days, that's the name that's been coming up quite a bit as far as lining up with the ones and just making outstanding plays happen. So I mean, that's one name to definitly keep an eye on.
Yeah, because he started off as 4, right? Was that the story that Joey Alfieri was mentioning in his post camp day stories? Was he the one that started at 4 or 5 and is now working with the ones?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's unheard of.
Well, it's not necessarily. It's about there's an opportunity. There's a spot available. Like who's going to take it? Mm-hmm. And like I said, the Alouettes brought in a lot of receivers, and you can't keep them all. But I mean, obviously they're going to keep the ones who are standing up and standing out. So Abram right now is currently on that list as far as the one of the ones to watch. I know Tyler Snead was given quite a bit of fanfare when he was signed in the offseason. Looked okay, not I would say outstanding yet, but maybe it was just one of those situations where we just lying in wait, maybe just trying to get comfortable. Because let's not forget, folks, for American receivers to come into the CFL and have to get used to things like the waggle and all the other little idiosyncrasies that come with Canadian football. Some catch on quicker than others. This could be a case where Abrams catching on appear to be a little bit quicker than what Tyler Snead might be doing, for example. Another name that I'm kind of keeping an eye on too for partially selfish reasons is Austin Mack, mostly because he's a former San Francisco 49er, a name that I recognized back when he was with the Niners. And now he's here in Montreal, and curious to see if he's got what it takes to make it. Like it didn't work out for him in San Francisco, unfortunately, but maybe he can get a renaissance here in Montreal, if you will. So, yes, there is Niner ties there, so I'm obviously interested. But I'm going to keep an eye on him, see what he's been able to do. I mean, that's been one of the big keys this year as far as the receiving position goes, because losing a Jake Wieneke and a Eugene Lewis, not ideal, not something you would necessarily want. But when you look at the 3 national receivers that we have in Mayala, Philpott, and Julian Grant, I mean, that's some serious talent right there. And then you've got Greg Ellingson kind of bringing up the rear. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's some good hands on this team, but again, you need that depth. You need guys that can slot in at a moment's notice. And it's going to be, as I said, one of these many receivers that were invited to camp. And even though cutdowns have already started and a couple of those receivers were shown the door, it's guys that I've mentioned here. Like those are 3 guys that I think in the right opportunity, if given the right, right play calls, right momentum, they can make some noise. And so far they are making noise. So those are 3 guys I'm definitely keeping my eye on, in addition to the already established receivers on this team.
What are your thoughts on Najee Murray taking, basically, he seems to be trying out and getting used to the spot that Adarius Pickett was roaming last year. I know they were talking about that, I think, in one of the press game, either press game scrums or in one of the post camp stories. What are your thoughts on him potentially taking up that spot this year?
Not surprised at all. I mean, Najee is a tremendous player, and unfortunately, he got hit by the injury bug last year, so we didn't get a chance to really see him capitalize. He had a great 2021 season, and unfortunately, it didn't quite take off in 2022 like he had hoped it would. So now I think this for him is a bit of a comeback story, if you will, and I think he's ready to prove that. Yeah, I've been on this team now for a few years, and I'm ready to show what I can do. I'm ready to take that next level and become one of those superstar names, like the names that you hear on this defense. And I think Noel Thorpe is going to give Najee as many opportunities as possible to prove that he can be that guy. Mm-hmm. And again, replacing an Adarius Pickett, as I've said, easier said than done. But I think Najee is up to the task, and yeah, he also too looked pretty outstanding that first day of camp.
Now, things are stranger too, because I'm sure if people didn't know, former Alouette Patrick Levels got released also by Ottawa. So things can happen really, really quick around here. So you need to really stand out before, especially during camp, as we've seen. So
yeah, I mean, that's the thing. There's a lot of the names on this list. You're like, who the heck is that? But then once you see them in action, and then like you see so and so making an outstanding play, you're like, what? Who did that? And you're like, number 45. Oh, okay. Well, all right. Now I'm paying attention to number 45 now. Or, 96 is okay. All right. Well, you're going right back to that list, that that program, if you will, to see who's so and so, because I don't recognize him. But sure enough, okay. So
if you are going to go to the scrimmage this Saturday, make sure you grab one on your way in, because it will be needed. It will, even for vets like Cliff and I, and for the others that were there. Yeah, it was needed. So
I'm telling you, like I said, between the number changes and the new invites, and even seeing some old familiar faces is good. But yeah, there are a couple times like, wait a minute, who's so and so again? Oh, okay, right.
Exactly.
A prime example would be Keontae Evans, who played for the Alouettes in 2019, had an outstanding campaign. Left in free agency. I think he signed with the Hamilton Tiger Cats, and it didn't work out well. I mean, he did a fine job for the Tiger Cats, and lo and behold, ended up back in Montreal and did not look out of place again. Looked outstanding. Like he looked like that superstar that we saw in 2019. So imagine bringing back Keontae Evans and having Najee Berry by his side in the boundary. Okay, well, guess what? I know I said that the linebacking core was one to watch, like one to really I was going to be keeping an eye on, and I still am. But this secondary is huge. Like I expect the secondary to be very aggressive and really make life miserable for opposing quarterbacks. And when you got guys like Evans and Murray in that secondary, alongside of a Marc-Antoine Dequoy, I'm telling you, there's a lot to like here, and I'm really, really excited to see how it's gonna work out.
Oh no, I agree. Also, too, we got to see him real quickly. Tyrell Richards coming off the field. It's good to see him back. Seems to be fully healed up, and he's doing what he's doing. Brock Gownlock, I know we talked to him real quickly.
That's another guy that, as we've said, we're expecting big things out of him because of what he did in training camp last year. And once again, the injury bug. I'm telling you, Tim, there's so many outstanding players that last year just were not lucky when it came to that. We're just bitten by the injury bug. And Brock is definitely a prime example of that. And this is a guy that can definitely cause a lot of damage. And
well, I'm sure everybody remembers the last preseason game, what he did.
Exactly.
And by the way, wasn't that versus one of his current teammates? Wasn't that against Caleb Evans?
I'm pretty sure it was Tyree Evans.
Was it Tyree? I couldn't remember which who was against. So,
I mean, it's crazy like that. I mean, even this year, like when you think about the fact that Brian Harlemana is on the same team as Cody Fajardo, who he terrorized when Fajardo was with the Rough Riders. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm sure Fajardo's now was like, oh, good, he's on my side, so I don't have to look under my bed for this guy at night.
Yeah. So there'll be more to watch. You know, it was a matter of who we were going to watch this time around. I know, as I said, both I know you and I usually watch different things, but it's I was pretty impressed with day one of camp. I really was. It's just getting used to these guys. You know, the weather was perfect. You couldn't ask for any much more for our first day of camp.
No, and being able to talk with so many different people, not just players, but coaches as well, and other admin people. I mean, it was just it felt like a family reunion. And that's the awesome part, is that you go and you talk to these guys, and they want to know how your off season was. They want to, they're asking about, how's the flight deck going? Like, how are things there? And just being able to tell them of what we've been able to accomplish and seeing the excitement in their eyes, and like, yeah, that's great. And, to me, it feels like they want to be able to provide us with great content and great stuff to talk about, and we want to let them. We want to let them provide us with that great content. So, I think everybody is truly excited, truly ready to see what this team can do. I mean, there's a lot to work with here, so it really is just going to come down to what you do during these camp days. It's a grind. There's no question about that. You ask any of the players, whether they're a veteran or a rookie, it's a grind. And all you want to do is just go out there, ball out, do the best you can, and just win that job, win that spot on the roster, and just be able to say, yeah, I am a member of this team. I belong here, and I'm going to show that I do belong in the conversation as well.
Yeah. I will admit, I was one of the, and I'm sure you remember, I was pretty hard on the team when finding out that, a lot of our draft picks this year weren't going to be showing up for camp this year. We obviously we found out about our 7th round draft pick this year. He won't be coming because he just signed a big contract with Cincinnati. But it was nice to see our 1st round draft pick today, Lowell Ugiak. signed with the Owls, and as it's been reported, it was for 2 years plus an option year. So he's already on the roster. You know, I'm curious to see how this guy fits in and how well he does getting used to the Canadian game.
Because let's not forget, a few months ago, he was playing in the national championship game down in the States. And now he's a member of the Montreal Alouettes.
I think he wants to forget about that national championship game. Do you remember the score of that game?
Yeah. If you were a TCU guy, you were not having a good day.
Maybe he remembers more or less the semifinal because they actually smoked. You know, who did they play in the semifinal? Either way, whoever it was, they smoked. But then they themselves got smoked by Georgia.
I think it was Michigan. Didn't they smoke Michigan?
I think it was. Man, I'll have to go back and look. But yeah, you're probably right.
Right.
But still, you know, he's Edmonton, Alberta native. He's only 23, so I'm curious to see how well he gets accustomed to this defense.
Yeah, as we all know, this defensive line is practically a murderer's row of talent. I mean, there's definitely some incredible names on there. I mean, guys like Nick Usher, Armando Sewell, Jamal Davis. I mean, these are heavy hitters, guys that can really make life miserable for opposing offenses.
By the way, new number 9, Jamal Davis.
That's right. See, again, this all comes back to everything is old and new again kind of deal. It's hilarious. I mean, but yeah, for Ugoak to get into this lineup and get a chance to really work with a lot of these guys, I think is going to be so tremendous. And again, I don't want to put too much pressure on this young man, but you know, I think he wants to prove that he can be that guy here in Montreal. And I have to believe he's going to get every single opportunity available to him in order to do so. So now that we know that he's signed, sealed, and delivered, I'm looking forward to seeing him. You know, I fully expect that, you know, he's going to take a day or two to get his bearings here in Montreal and get used to the Canadian game. But come the scrimmage game on Saturday, I'm hoping to see him in there, and I just want to see what this guy's all about. Yeah,
for sure. And by the way, I know you wanted to mention too that not only did the Alouettes sign him to the roster, but the Alouettes also had their CFL mandated releases down to, I think the roster down to 75 players, right?
Yeah, quite a few names were released. Most notable names though would be, for example, Ronnie Blackman, who was just signed a couple of weeks ago to much fanfare, and it just didn't quite work out. Unfortunately, Rashard Harding, someone who we'd been keeping an eye on as well and expected big things out of, he too, for whatever reason, couldn't crack that linebacking core. So that's unfortunate. A lot of the other names, though, are probably just camp hands, to be honest with you. I mean, it's, as you say, you got to cut down to 75 by this past Tuesday at midnight. So, you know, like I said, it's unfortunate. Like there's no big names, there's no big shocking names. Unfortunately, just a couple of players that we know that we were expecting something out of, and it just didn't pan out. So, you know, that's just the way it is. Maybe they end up in another camp. Maybe someone else gives them an opportunity that the Alouettes wouldn't, or maybe by the time the season rolls around, more cuts are made, and maybe they end up back with the team on the practice roster. That's the thing with football is this time of year it's tough because there's only so many positions available, and you know everybody's playing lights out. Everybody's doing everything they can to secure a spot on this team, and unfortunately, the numbers game doesn't always work in your favor.
No, it doesn't. It's funny. You know, we kind of mused last week, you know, we're talking about the first day of practice and stuff like that. If Alouette's new owner, Pierre Carpello, was going to show up, well, lo and behold,
he sure did.
He showed up and he was, I know he did he was part of the scrum. He was there. I think he actually came in the day prior, if I'm not mistaken, and talked to the players, gave them a pre-camp speech, which seemed to go over quite well. That is available, by the way, over on the Alouettes website.
And also too, doing it in English, obviously, because let's face it, 95% of the team is English speaking, and probably wouldn't understand if he were to give his speech in French. And to his credit, did a very good job, very admirable job in speaking a language that is, I guess, not his native tongue, but still, I think, was able to convey the story of how he came to be and how he came to be the owner of the Alouettes. And, you know, I think did a I like to think he did a pretty good job of being able to fire everybody up and just let them know, like, hey, we're here for the long haul. Like, I'm here for the long haul. I'm going to do everything I can to make sure you are given every opportunity to succeed as a member of this organization. And to me, like, I think after so many years of, well, let's face it, just a circus-like atmosphere when it came to so many things on and off the field.
Yeah.
If billionaire Pierre can truly provide that stable environment to allow this football team to grow and flourish like we expect it to, like we hope it will, then to me, like that's half the battle right there. And we know what he's capable of as an owner. Like, we know what his resources are. We know what, his intentions are with his team. And if he's ready to follow through with that and get the players on board and get them excited about the prospect of being a Montreal Alouette, that's huge to me. That's what it's going to take to help bring back that stability, bring back that good feeling, and get people excited about this team again. Oh,
exactly. And anything, they had a couple of press conferences, the post-game scrums they've done. I love hearing the insight from not only all the players that we've had on there. Greg Ellingson had a great thing. Cody Fajardo, I think, has been on there too. I know Cody's taking everything in stride, trying his best when it comes to learning French. One of the ones that really, I don't know why I'm so surprised about it, but having GOAT AC Anthony Calvillo starting off and taking. I was thinking, AC is going to speak. He's going to, he's just. I think the reporters would fall into just asking him questions in English. No, he took questions in French, and I was like, this is absolutely amazing.
It really is. I mean, like for those of you that don't know, Anthony Calvillo is not a Montrealer. I mean, he's a Montrealer now, but born and raised in California and of Latin heritage. I mean, you would expect his Spanish to be okay and his English to be okay. Like French, you wouldn't necessarily think of. I mean, that's essentially his third language, and he's out there killing it. I mean, yes, he's been living in Montreal now for 20 plus years. So, I mean, raising a family here in Montreal, living here 24/7, 365. I mean, yeah. I mean, you immerse yourself in the French culture, you're going to absorb it. That really is it. Like, the best way to learn a different language is to immerse yourself in the culture of that language. And that's essentially what AC's done. He lives in Montreal. He works in Montreal. He deals with both French and English people. And for him to be able to come out and now start doing interviews in French is tremendous. And my God, I'm so proud of him. I mean, like I said, I've been an AC guy. I mean, as long as the Alouettes and AC have been together, like I've been behind him 100%. I've been a little critical of him at times when it comes to his coaching and all that, but I mean, you can't question his heart. You can't question his dedication to this team. And again, it just speaks to that, the fact that he's able to come and do these interviews in French. I mean, he could just as easily say, you know what, I'm sorry, I just don't feel comfortable with it. But no, he's jumped in with both feet, doing interviews in French. Again, his third language, if you will. Mm-hmm. I mean that's tremendous. I mean, how can you not be proud of his efforts? How can you not be proud of the fact that he's willing to do that? He embraces the culture. He embraces everything about being a part of this city, a part of this province, a part of this country, really, when you think about it. I mean, listen, he may not be a pure laine Québécois, but he's pretty darn close nowadays.
Yeah, and also Tyrell Sutton too. I mean, you and I have heard him speak French before, but obviously, with his family situation too, it makes a hell of a lot of sense. So it's, but just hearing him go off, it's just a huge plus for the community. It really, really is.
No, and that's the thing. That's what billionaire Pierre talked about, was being able to make the Alouettes relevant in Montreal again. I mean, you're not going to knock off the Canadiens as the number one sports team in the city. You're just not. But there is a place for you here. There is a place for you in the sports landscape. It's just a matter of making yourself available to each and every member of, like, each and every citizen, whether they speak English, French, or other. But that's the key thing, is being able to communicate and reach out and be a part of this community. And I think this coaching staff, by and large, gets it. Yes, we expect Danny Machocha to be able to do things bilingually. We expect the general manager, Danny Machocha is the general manager. We expect him to be able to do that. We expect the president of this organization, Mark Waitman, to be able to do that, and he does. Now that we have an owner who is bilingual as well, maybe more primarily French, but still, he also recognizes and appreciates the value of being able to communicate in both official languages. And the fact that the Alouettes are taking those steps to ensure that everybody in the province of Quebec realizes, hey, this can be my team because I understand them, whether I speak English, whether I speak French, or just because I love football. To me, that's really what it comes down to, is just making things available and accessible to everybody. And if the Alouettes can do that and do that well, it's just going to raise the profile, not just of the Alouettes, but the Canadian Football League as a whole.
No, I totally agree with you. We'll there was some more news that the team talked about before we preview what's to come next Saturday. But the team finally officially announced the theme nights for 2023, Cliff, and they really have been hyping up what's to come on the home opener on June 10th. I am hoping, and of all times, this is one of the times that I hope that the hype is real and it comes to fruition. You know what I mean? Because it's, Videotron being the partner, obviously, the preseason game on the 2nd, June 2nd, they had their buy one, get one free ticket offer. But the home opener itself, dude, Rally Towels, they're bringing back Alouettes beer, Cliff.
Oh, yeah.
For a second, and they say with a special touch for the diehard fans. We don't know what that means, but we'll find out. But then they go, most importantly, a major halftime show will soon be announced, as well as the local band that will be hosting the pregame. This is Grey Cup type of stuff here. The hype that they're giving for this home opener, and we joked a few weeks back about who could this halftime act be. And I just for giggles, I just went out and put it on social media. I said, Simple Plan. Wouldn't it be funny if it was Simple Plan? Because home, they are, I think they're in the process of doing a new, I think they are still active, and they are homegrown, internationally known. That would be pretty cool. But I guess we'll find out, within the next few weeks.
Yeah. Like last year, the BC Lions kind of set the bar pretty high when they had, I think it was One Republic playing their home opener. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's no small feat when you think about it. And, I don't know if it generated necessarily more sales or not. And I do know that a lot of people really got into the whole tailgate atmosphere around BC Place. You can't tailgate in the traditional sense, but they had a concert stage set up with other acts that were performing. They had, alcohol sales. They had food trucks, if I'm not mistaken. I know they did quite the whole to-do, if you will, outside of BC Place. And then once you got in, and then, okay, we got One Republic, who is, a pretty well-known band who's even played a Grey Cup halftime show. You got these guys opening the season. For the season opener, you got these guys playing. So I'm not saying Montreal has to attain that level necessarily, but with all this hype and everything, you better bring out a true name act. I'm not these, franglais singing Quebec bands that are notorious for being on C'est Quoi or something like that, like the local radio stations. Like, you need a true name band, and I mean, Simple Plan would fit the bill. They would definitely check off the boxes as far as something that would be known league-wide, nationwide, if you will, too. So would it be them? Could it be something? But it would have to be someone of that caliber, if you will. I mean, we're not going to get Led Zeppelin playing. Playing.
There will be, and this is just me. This is just me musing. I think there will be some ties. I think this will be an internationally known group or person with ties. So the ties to Montreal and to Quebec.
It would make sense. And I don't think it would be Celine Dion either, even though that would definitely.
Wow, also. That really would. That would be something that you. Yeah. I understand what they're trying to do. They're trying to get, gain hype and potentially, like they did for the Poutine helmets, is create FOMO. That's what they're trying to do, and I completely get it. So once we know, you'll know. Interesting tidbit for the July 1st Canada Day game. First, it's the family game, which we usually have those later on the year. It's the Pure Later Tackle Hunger game, so I'm expecting the Grey Cup to be in the stadium. So if you want to take a picture with that, they're doing their hot dog specials. Kids, $5 tickets for kids under 16. But one of the things that they did not mention on the website, but did on the English side of the website, but didn't mention on the French side of the website, is what got me more hyped than I thought I would be, because I read through the presser, and then I was like, the Alouettes for the first time since 2014, Cliff, are going to be unveiling a brand new third jersey.
Interesting.
So
and I guess the question too is, if you're going to bring in another jersey, obviously you're hoping that fans are going to want to be able to buy said jersey. So are you doing a brand new jersey, or are you bringing back a classic jersey? Like because when it comes to a third uniform, it could be any one of those things. So wonder what it's going to be.
I know. I'm curious. I'm curious to know. I mean, this will be the ninth alternate jersey that the Alouettes have worn since '99. So if you're curious to know the list, you can head over to my social over at Twitter, over at Repacked, and you'll see it there. But I just if memory serves, I swear, and I don't know if this has anything to do with it or if it's tied into it in any way. I know the Alouettes were trying to do something for the 75th anniversary that ended up getting canceled in 2020. I don't know if it has anything to do with that contest that was done back then, but I guess we'll find out.
We will find out.
So
it's Canada Day, so I mean, what better way to celebrate our nation's birthday than with new clothes?
Musique Québécois night will be on July 14th. They're going to have live music from local bands will be played at halftime. This is a big one, and I think this is part of the PKP. What do I call it?
Rain?
Yeah, not necessarily rain, but influence.
Okay. All right.
July 30th, our first CFL Sunday Night Football, Cirque du Soleil. Really? They're going to be the halftime show, and they're going to. And currently, they are, as many of you may or may know, Cirque does have a show that they do here during the summer months here in Montreal over at the Old Port, and they are doing currently the show that they're doing there is Echo. That's what they're going to be. They're going to be part of their performance is going to be based off what they're doing currently here in Montreal. That's huge.
I'll say you don't have to go all the way to Las Vegas to watch Cirque du Soleil now.
No,
you just go to the Alouettes game.
No. Friday and August 11th, Friday Night Live. It's going to be country music night. Are we getting the same guys that they had at Grey Cup?
Oh God, I hope not. Or we'll probably end up with like Steph Carr. So, I don't know if you remember, but that was the guy who did the French Canadian version of "Achy Breaky Heart."
No, vaguely, yeah, vaguely, I do, yeah.
Yeah, one of those "if you know" kind of things.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it'll be somewhere in the middle. Once again, I'm not expecting Garth Brooks to come out and perform because he's not Québécois, but I guess there's a market for that. And what's funny? It seems like every CFL team, when they've announced their theme nights, it seems like every one of them has a country night. Like, is this like is this like kind of like this all in hashtag that's being used on Twitter? Like, there's some sort of iteration of it from team to team to team. Like, for example, like the Alouettes use Al's in. The Red Blacks are now using all in, and then the Rough Riders using all in green. So by that same token, I guess every CFL team has to use all in some way, shape, or form. And by that same token, they also have to have a country night as like designate one of their games as a country night. Is that a new CFL mandate? Can someone clear this up with us?
Yeah, please. September 2nd is going to be the fan appreciation game. Giveaways, halftime. I think it's our annual Alouettes cheerleaders halftime show. Student night, which I think is done really, really well for the Alouettes. That's going to be September 15th, where special discounts for students. $5 beer during pregame, and the annual BMX show, which is done at halftime. Then Thanksgiving Day. Yes, this is our celebration. Thanksgiving. It's our classic. Again, versus the Red Blacks. I don't know what else they're going to be doing that day. I know that weekend is the season ticket holders event. If I remember correctly, I think it's on the 8th or the 7th. I have to go back and check. I know the Alouettes have already announced that. October 28th, Halloween. What are you going to dress up as?
Oh, man. Well, now I've got time to plan, right? So
yeah.
I got to come up with a fire costume, I guess, as the kids say.
There you go. Oh, God.
Speaking of kids, that also is a family game, so
You're right.
tickets will be $5 for the kiddies.
That's right. Special Halloween halftime show with the cheerleaders again. And the stadium will be decked up for the occasion.
Spooky.
Ooh. I don't know what that means. I guess we'll find out. I'm curious to know if they're going to bring back the lights that they've had over the past couple of years.
Well, shoot, I hope so.
We'll see. I think it added a little bit of ambiance to that stadium. But that's it. Those are all the theme nights for the any particular one that you're looking forward to. I mean, for me, I think it's the home opener. I'm curious to know what the hell's going on, and then obviously the game versus where they unveiling or going to be wearing their the new third jerseys.
I mean, those are definitely two games for sure that people are they want people attending those games because they're pimping them out something fierce. I mean, whether it's the excitement of who could this big act be, and then you've got another game where you can see a new third jersey. I mean, there's excitement in that as well. I think the Cirque du Soleil show has potential to be interesting as well because we know at Cirque du Soleil it can be quite the production. How are they going to be able to pull this off during halftime? I'm not sure, but you've got my attention. I'm curious. And of course, Thanksgiving. I mean, we always get excited about the Thanksgiving game. I mean, it's such a great atmosphere. I mean, it's the long weekend, so much stuff. I mean, we've so far been blessed more often than not with really decent weather for the Thanksgiving game. I mean, usually it's still pretty sunny out despite being in October. Usually the temperature is ideal. I mean, not too hot, not too cold. I mean, there have been times too where we've had
everything, dude. We've been sitting in rain for Thanksgiving.
The only thing we haven't had was snow for a Thanksgiving game.
Shut your mouth.
I'm not looking for it.
We've been lucky. We've never had snow at an Alouettes game.
Thanksgiving game.
Alouettes game. Period.
We've had snow during playoff games. We've had snow.
But we haven't had one. But we haven't had like a Western snowstorm, that type of thing where it's snow on the field. You can't see the numbers. Like people wish Grey Cup would always be. You know what I mean?
Well, the closest coming to that would be the 2014 Eastern semifinal. Like, yes, they did clear the snow off, but I mean, there was a ton of snow for that.
That's fair,
and that added to the atmosphere too.
Yeah.
So yes, that's fair. We've gotten snow during a game, just not during a Thanksgiving game. So.
No, please no. We've had rain, but
Yeah, that's not fun. I mean, football is fun, but not when it's like raining cats and dogs.
Yeah. Speaking of, watch the weather. We're going to hype that. Watch the weather for this week's scrimmage on Saturday. It's supposed to be, I think as of we're taping, cloudy, high of 20. I guess the tailgate starts at 3. The game scrimmage starts at 4:30, and that will be over at Stade Diablos over in Trois-Rivières. If it's anything like it was last year, Cliff, it's going to be so much fun. The crowd was really into it. I'm hoping the weather seems to be a little bit warmer than what it was last year, but make sure you watch. If you're going to come early. And make sure you check the weather for depending on what type of clothing you're going to have to wear.
Right, because if I'm not mistaken, too, that there's supposed to be food trucks that'll be there. There's going to be activities for kids. There's going to be
the boutique will be there. The Owl's boutique will be there. Yeah.
So I mean, what better way to get your merch and get ready for the season? Nice and early, and just come out for a great. What will no doubt be a great scrimmage game. A good chance to meet some players as well before, during, and after. I mean, I remember the scrimmage game last year was a lot of fun, even though they had it on a holiday Monday, which was a little different. But because of the way training camp started, I mean, there was a whole thing. But this year, I'm curious to see how it's going to play out. We're now back to a quote unquote normal schedule as far as training camp goes. So. Yeah, I sincerely hope everybody shows up like they did last year because that stadium holds, I think, about 2,500 people, and it was damn near full. I mean, I remember looking throughout the crowd, and it was wall-to-wall people. It was great. I mean, I think it made for a very fun atmosphere. I think the players, too, felt it as well. They kind of got that rush knowing that, okay, they're here to see us. They're here to see what we were able to do, even if it is playing against, offense versus defense. It's the same team, but different, blue versus white kind of deal. But I think that if we get a full stadium like we did last year, and I think we're going to end up with a very entertaining afternoon of football. And folks, this is what we've been wanting for the longest time. I mean, we finally got a little taste of it this past Sunday. It was great. If you've been going to the sessions in Trois-Rivières, then it may not have quite that excitement and fanfare as it would, say, on a weekend. But I mean, Saturday is going to be where it's at. Like, this is your true opportunity to see an actual football game, if you will, with your team, with the players that we've been talking about, and seeing how it's all going to come together, seeing the hard work that they've done throughout the week. You're going to see it manifest on Saturday, and come out and support this team, folks. That's really what it comes down to, is come on out to Trois-Rivières and check out these Alouettes in action.
Exactly. By the way, just one quick thing which I hadn't mentioned to you, and it's kind of it's related to Percival Molson. I was walking around during work, during lunch, while I was
at work.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, while I was at work, and I'm just literally just down the hill from Percival Molson, and I knew they were starting to get ready already. You know how I knew, Cliff? Because the company that does the deliveries for Lacage, that sets up the Lacage section over at Percival Molson, was already there bringing in supplies.
Ooh, okay.
So I thought that was pretty interesting. And also, I just happened to notice this too as I'm going over their webpage. You know how the section that we usually sit in, and we're able to get our internet if we want to sign up to the thing is usually through TELUS, right?
That's right.
It won't be the TELUS Wi-Fi zone anymore. It's currently Fizz.
Oh,
Fizz. TELUS should not be in the, because I thought they were. I thought that they were a league-wide sponsor, but I guess they're a team sponsor because they're nowhere to be seen on the Owls website now. Nowhere.
Interesting.
So, hey.
I'm sure billionaire Pierre, owner of Quebecor, which is owner of Videotron, which is owner of Fizz.
Exactly.
I'm sure he had nothing to do with this.
Nothing at all. I think it's pretty funny, though. It's, hey, if the PKP thing is able to come about and bring in all these whoever's going to be the group that's going to be playing at the home the home opener and the PKP effect. Hey, so you know what, the owner's using what the owner has, and that's all you can ask for when it comes to an owner. So
well, that's it. And he's talked about he knows he's going to have to foot the bills. He's going to probably take a bath for the next year or two as he fully integrates himself into this team and puts his own molds it into his own sort of vision, with the idea that as this team becomes successful and stays successful and the stands get filled and people are buying merch and buying season tickets and just buying into the Alouettes in general, eventually things will turn around and God forbid this team actually starts making money for billionaire Pierre. Mm-hmm. And if it's going to take something like him going all out right away and making an impact right away, that's what you got to do. Like you got to stand up and stand out, simply put. And it all starts that home opening game sponsored by Videotron. I mean, that's his company. He's putting his stamp already on the game with that alone. Now, whatever act he trots out, I mean, as we said, you can't miss with this one. I mean, it's got to be a truly known act. And if that's what it's going to take to fill the stands, then so be it. At this point, get them in. However you can get them in and get them watching football. And if the Alouettes play an outstanding football game and convince them, oh, man, I had a blast at this game, I'm definitely coming to the next one. Or, you know what, I'm ready. I'm ready to go ahead and I'm going to get myself some season tickets or buy one of these ticket packages that are available. I mean, that's what it's going to take. And the fact that he's able to invest in this team and see it through as he says he's going to, I mean, that can't help but make you feel good inside. That can't help but make you relieved, especially after all we've been through over the past 10 years easily when it comes to like ownership stuff and all the other extracurriculars, if you will. But God, I just sincerely hope, if nothing else, this new ownership regime of PKP just get the Alouettes back on track, on and off the field. I still trust in Danny Machocha to be able to do the right thing when it comes to personnel. I trust in this organization, the higher ups, that they know what they're doing off the field as well. Now it's just a matter of getting the on the field things right and just putting together what will be a fun, interesting team to watch. Win or lose, make sure that this team is entertaining as hell each and every week that they go out and play.
Exactly. Should be fun. So if you're coming out, let us know on social media that you'll be heading out to Trois-Rivières for the scrimmage. Come by and say hey. We'll be more than happy to meet, and we're happy to meet our listeners. But
once again, we'll be the guys wearing the flight deck gear.
Who would have thought? Who would have thought?
Right?
I know, I know. And as I mentioned last week, stay tuned. Next couple of days, that tease that I made for about that new piece of merch should be out available soon. So stay tuned for that. So Cliff, I'll talk to you soon, brother. I'm sure we're gonna have fun at the game on Saturday. So for everybody here at the Alouettes Flight Deck, for Cliffy D, I'm Tim Capper. We're on Final Approach.
Thanks for listening. Find more great shows like this at CF Pod Network on Twitter.